Thank you. That's very kind.
Okay. Let's offer the mandala, guys. Patty, if you will prepare the prepare the mandala offering, and we're getting ready right now. Marianne.
Do you have somebody chanting? Otherwise I chant.
She's going to play a recording of the
Okay,
chanting.
I can just chant.
Okay, yeah.
Zaji Bergi Jujemelo Tramri Ramiji Ni Degem Padi Sange Shindu Nige Uwari Jogunanda Jima Chuparjo Idam Guru Radnam Indalakam Niratayami. Let's put this on the table. Wonderful. That was very sweet. Thank you so much. Here, Jack. Oh, sorry. No. Yeah. Okay, I think everybody's here. So we've got our Zoom folks. Welcome from Chicago, Florida, New Jersey, North Carolina, and Oklahoma. From what I can see, I might be missing somebody. Oh yeah, I'm missing a bunch of people. Sorry. Pennsylvania. I don't know where all of you are. Elaine, you're in California?
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. Glenn, you're where?
I'm in Florida.
Florida. And John, you are in?
Hi, I'm in California right now.
California. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for everyone here. And thank you. I'd like to thank Tutankunga Center for hosting me once again, Nicole, everybody who's helping, everybody who's making this possible, those of you in the Zoom, Patty as well, all the people that have made this center possible. I'm so grateful, and nice history I have with the center. So it's been it's really lovely to be back. A 2-year delay in person. So it's really great to see all of you. Thank you so much. And thank you. I so appreciate you wearing your masks. Thank you so much. I know it's difficult, but thank you. Okay, so let's take a moment to set our motivation for being here right now. If you'd like to close your eyes for a minute. And just think of possibly the biggest wish you could have. We have these ideas that you might say to yourself, I wish the war in Ukraine would stop immediately. I wish my friend would recover from cancer. I wish my family wouldn't fight with each other. I wish I had this, I wish I had that, all the different things we hope and wish for. Just reflect for a moment. All those ideas you have in your head. And what if you had a capacity, you yourself, to help all living beings every moment? Every breath you take is about helping all living beings, and you're doing it in that moment, every moment. Think about that mind state. And with that consciousness, let's think about the byproducts of that enlightened consciousness that acts from that place. Freedom, incredible bliss. Every moment in your mind is like that. Can you imagine? So can you make this dedication in your heart right now? Can you move yourself along a path to that place for the benefit of all living beings? Just feel that in your heart. That's why we're here right now. Or if you're here for a different reason, at least just put your mind in a positive place right now. So thank you. Please relax and you can slowly open your eyes. I just have to share and then we're going to do the refuge but let's do the refuge. Sorry, let's do the refuge bodhicitta prayer. Patty is sharing the screen from this place of motivation. So if people have the gold prayer book, you can join us. And I forget what page.
Me too. I think it's 34. Yes, 34.
Okay. If you turn to page 34, is that before the teaching?
Yes, taking refuge in generate practice giving other. No, so by you want by listening, is it maybe
So
98?
it should be later in the book, where before the teaching prayers.
I feel like it's 98. Is it 98? Yes.
Okay.
Page 98.
Page 98. Thank you. You got those page numbers down. Okay. So again, with that feeling from the heart of benefiting all living beings, we'll recite twice in English and then once in the phonetics. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. O Sangye Chodan Soki Chonam La Janchu Bardu Dagni Kyap Suchi Kagi Jin Yingi Pe Sonam Gi Drola Pencher Sangye Druparsho. Thank you. So a mundane tale, I somehow was just thinking about the two people from Pennsylvania here. Myself, I'm from Pennsylvania originally, but again, merely labeled Pennsylvania, whatever. But lately at Land of Medicine Buddha, where I'm living right now and working, we were just talking about dynamics of people. And when you're living in California and you're from the East Coast, and when you're from an area called Philadelphia, it's a different kind of sentiment of the Northeast versus California. And I just find the coast very different personally. And some of you are aware, you know, like that. So I was laughing and I was joking with people, and we were joking about possibly people imputing, and also I'm the chair of the board right now, so imputing more on me when I say something, when I'm like, I don't have any charge about it. I just said, could we start the meeting on time? Just like that. I'm not angry about it. I don't have, but and one of my friends was saying on the board, well, I didn't like the way he said it. And I said, well, why? If he said it, you'd be okay. But so we're just talking about what you impute, which we're going to talk about tonight, what you impute on things. And so so we talked about that and said, oh, and then some people were saying, yeah, maybe I am putting more on the person because they're the leader, and things. So it was very interesting, the conversation. That I've seen this at many centers, move around, and how different people are kind of the shadow at times. So then I said, but also I'm from Philadelphia. So, and we have a joke in Philadelphia that some of you have been to Philadelphia, I take it. Okay. It's a tough town. Okay. It's people are kind of intense a little bit, good people, and one of the jokes that actually happened is there was a big snow one year in the football stadium. There was a game, there was a kind of an event in the stadium, the football stadium, many, many people, right? Santa Claus came out. They had, it was around Christmas time. So they had Santa, and they pelted him with snowballs. That's Philadelphia. Like my brother always says, we threw snowballs at Santa. Like, it's kind of like, really? Like, but if you're Philadelphia and you go, yeah, of course, So I was joking. And then, so recently I was saying, and I sent this message to the board the other night. So a friend the other night sent me a message. I guess I didn't watch this, but there was the Oscars ceremony. Okay, so I guess this made the news. Will Smith slapped the presenter. I don't, whatever. And so then I said, well, a friend sent me this thing. Will Smith did this, which sounded pretty outrageous, frankly, to slap somebody on a public stage, and like, whoo, okay, comment about his wife, but whatever. So then I said, guess where he's from, right? I'm like, so I'm pretty contained compared to a lot of Philadelphians, actually. So anyway, they kind of enjoyed that comment. So I do want to talk about what we are imputing on our reality. And just as a review, we talked about the 6 perfections last week, moving along this path of presenting the path. And okay, there we go. And how do we then practice the path? What are you actually practically going to do, which we're going to end the class with? So let me just talk about a couple of these things. What we didn't talk about the last 2 perfections, concentration and wisdom. Concentration and wisdom. Shine and emptiness. Shine and emptiness. Shine is a Tibetan word for calm abiding. Calm abiding. Shamatha in Sanskrit, shamatha. You're placing your mind single-pointedly on an object and keeping it there single-pointedly, okay? Now, this is not just to Buddhism. Other traditions have single-pointed concentration they develop, okay? The point in our tradition is you need to have the meditative absorption to then apply it to the wisdom realizing emptiness, okay? Special insight, they'll say. Special insight, vipassana. Vipassana means special insight in Sanskrit. So that's what we're working with when you get into concentration and wisdom. They're in that order because you need the concentration to get the wisdom, meaning you have the meditative stabilization in your mind. You're in meditation for long periods of time, okay? Meditating effectively on emptiness. We're going to do a brief meditation on emptiness tonight, so you get some taste of that. And I'll recommend another guide or a book you can go to. So that in that meditative absorption, but there's a lot of components to it, but your mind is absorbed, and that's when you can gain a direct perception of emptiness. So you need the concentration to get there, okay? It takes effort, I understand that. So I'm going to talk about that path of how do I get there. That away. There's 9 levels of Shine. 9 levels of calm abiding that when you actually attain calm abiding. And for instance, if we are meditating on concentration, which many of you do, and will start, a lot of times people start a course with meditation on the breath, which isn't standard Tibetan Buddhist meditation, but it's a great settling place to start meditation. Just calms you down. You know, I think Peggy was saying initially when she was losing patience, back to the breath, take a deep inhalation, deep exhalation really, really helps. We also have a saying in the United States, count to 10. Just about that. It's like, let me look at my mind for a moment before I negatively react, count to 10, take a deep breath. So it really helps. Okay. But what Buddhism does is we tend to use other objects to focus on with calm abiding, like an image of the Buddha. The reason we use the image of the Buddha is it's said to be uplifting for the mind, and it creates a positive imprint on your mind. And if you ever get into tantric practice, right, you're trying to visualize different deities, and ultimately with the right initiation, visualizing yourself as a deity, meaning an aspect of the Buddha, an aspect of the Buddha. So it's practice. It familiarizes your mind with a deity, what a Buddha looks like. Initially for Westerners, we're not familiar with that. So start with a simple image on a card. You look at the card, postcard or something, but then you want to close your eyes. And then maybe you just bring the eyes into focus. Maybe the face first, maybe then knowing the whole body is there, like that. So again, Shine is from the mind's side, not from the side of the object. You're not having your eyes open, looking at the picture. Closing your eyes, getting familiar, bringing it to mind. And then you're sharpening the intensity of the image, sharpening the details, bringing the details more clearly into focus. So you're exercising your mind. You're exercising your mind, even though the mind is not physical. Okay. And it takes effort. So as most of you know in the beginning, those of you that have a meditation practice or you've tried, when you first try to sit and just watch your breath, you're on the breath like 2 seconds, and then the mind bounces off, and then you're back. Then it goes off, and you're back. That's meditation. That's how we practice, bring the mind back. But here's what happens. When you go off after a thought, you hear a sound, distracts you, okay? You don't need to have a sweeping judgment on yourself. Okay, so this is beginning the relaxation, okay? Positive effort. I'm trying my best. What people do is they're off the thought, they're off the object on a thought, and then they start, and I've seen this in retreats that I'd lead with groups of people, I can't meditate. This is the internal dialogue. I'm a lousy meditator. I should give this up. Why am I here? And what happens is you might peak. You might look around and see 30 people around you, and they all look like they're incredible meditators. You have no idea what's going on inside. But we give up really easily. Some people have their sitting practice and their phone is near them. So then you hear, and then they look at their phone, and then here's an excuse now not to do this session. Oh, the phone, no, I need to take care of this. Put your phone out. So we have to be practical with the practice right now. It's very hard to practice. We've got this pandemic around the planet. Centers are closed. People are phenomenally distracted by their technology. People are suffering, right? People suffer from anxiety and depression. So let's try our best practically. So again, if you're off on the thought, part of meditation, but gently back to the object, whether it's the breath, whether it's something else, back to the object. Not like, I'm a lousy meditator, you're crap, back to the object. No, back. So that's the beginning of our meditation practice. Gentle process coming from a nice posture, but relaxed posture. Shoulders are not up here. It's like, and I'm just trying my best. Let's get skillful. I just talked to somebody yesterday who said they get really agitated. They have a regular practice every day. They get really agitated, and then they can't sit. The mind's just all over. They're upset about the colleague. There are things like this. So again, notice you're really, really agitated. There are times to push through it. Be patient with yourself. Let the space open up. There's other times it's just not working. So then I go back and I pick up a prayer book and I read some inspiring prayers. Maybe that's the best I can do. that period. I had 10 minutes, I had 20 minutes, some of you longer, depends. So you want to find a balance. There's certain things to use at certain times. You will develop that yourself. It's not like this is right and this is wrong. It's nice to have a framework and a guide, like some framework of here's how you want to do your practice. I'll explain a few things near the end, but let's be practical about it. When I'm on retreat, if I'm doing a more serious retreat for a few months by myself, and I might have a few sessions a day. The sessions for me, they could be somewhat long, right? But it's amazing because it's the same mind. And sometimes I'm doing similar things in each session, okay? And every session is different. Sometimes a few days, some nice consistency, right? And then suddenly I turn up for a couple sessions and my mind's not cooperative at all. The mind's just like a boomerang. So what I'll do is I'll shorten the session. Maybe I don't feel well one day. Shorten the session. Do some other prayers that I really like, something. So that's how you gently work on a practice. It's not like it's all rigid. I have to be like this. Let's be realistic about it, but try to get to something because it'll really be a buoyant support for you, especially in times like this. And then you can be a support for other people. That's our job right now on the planet. You know, if you're in this room, as much as you can, and I don't care what level you're at and how long you've been around, but people are really struggling right now. So why don't we be the support for them? It doesn't mean that you don't need support too. You can get support too, but this is our job, Mahayana Buddhism, you know, where we're very focused on getting enlightened to benefit all living beings, right? You just try to help when you can. I'm not perfect, but I see somebody struggling, you know, how are you doing? What's going on? Certainly you can have 10 minutes to talk to somebody, little kindness in the store, little kindness when you're driving, little extra moment for somebody. We can certainly do that, you know. And then sometimes we mess up, right? Lost my patience. I didn't feel very energetic today. I didn't really feel very generous. I didn't want to offer somebody my seat. Okay, so I go home, I get back in my meditation seat and I go, and then, you know what? Get curious. Get curious instead of judgmental. Get curious instead of judgmental. Somebody just was quoting at our board meeting, be curious, not judgmental. And they said it comes from a TV program called Ted Lasso. Have you watched this program? Apparently he's a very upbeat guy. This is his thing, get curious, but I always use curiosity. Sometimes when I'm teaching is, you have a delusion arise. You're angry at somebody. You feel attached to somebody, right? You're fearful. You're depressed. Get curious instead of judgmental, instead of I shouldn't be this way, I'm a Buddhist. Figure out why are you angry at this person? What are you afraid of? Analyze. What are you afraid of, right? What's the anxiety about? Can you just sit calmly with yourself for a minute and go, you know, I was working with somebody yesterday, their anxiety was their partner is a real estate agent, okay, had 3 deals about to go through, right? They needed the money, but they have, you know, the deals didn't go through for a variety of reasons. So the partner tells him he's prone to anxiety, so he gets really stressed. So I said to him, okay, so let's analyze. Are you going to lose your house because you didn't get the deals go through? He goes, no. So you're not going to have any clothes or you can buy food? Yeah, we're okay. We'll be okay. Okay. Is your health okay? Both of you? Yeah, our health is okay. So when you start analyzing, you realize everything's actually okay here. It's just that he spent a lot of time, the deals didn't go through, would have liked to have more money, you know, is going to have to do more work to get but really it just decreases the anxiety. It's really okay. So that's our job. We have to keep looking at our minds unfolding. So the meditative stabilization, concentration, it's called, as well as another word, Shine is also called placement meditation or stabilizing meditation. It's all the same. I'm putting my mind on an object in my mind, right? Keeping it there stably, holding it there stably. When you have attained Shine, I know this is going to sound outrageous, you can hold your mind stably on an object for 4 hours. Okay. You need that kind of meditative stabilization to get emptiness directly, because eventually you'll apply it, the wisdom realizing emptiness in meditation, which I'll explain, penetrating, like laser light into that absorption, into the not finding, which I'll explain a little later. Okay. So I just wanted to explain concentration. And here's the thing with concentration. Let me go to some other notes I had. When they talk about something called the 3 higher trainings, don't get worried about, I know in Buddhism, there's the 3 of this, the 6 of that, the 7 of that. It takes time to learn. So you build your Dharma career. So, those of you that your vocation of what you're doing, you had to learn skill to do it, right? I talked to Alice, no, wait, it's Adrian, healthcare worker pharmacist. You had to learn what you're doing, and you probably made mistakes in the beginning. I forgot that thing when you're doing your exams. I forgot where's that medicine located? Where you practiced, you got more familiar. Now, 30 years later, you know the stuff. This is the same with your mind, same with meditation. Why are we not patient enough with our minds? People sit down and meditate and they expect I should be a Buddha in 2 weeks. So it's just not realistic, okay? So what they talk about is the 3 higher trainings. Ethical conduct, number 1, concentration and wisdom. So I'm not talking about the 6 perfections right now, but 2 of them are the 6 perfections, concentration and wisdom. You got this thing, ethical conduct, which is another one of the 6 perfections, but they're also taken out, those 3, and called the 3 higher trainings. So isn't it interesting that on the basis to get concentration, I need ethical conduct? Let's think about it. If I'm not lying to people and I'm not cheating people, right? And I'm not hurting people and stuff, my mind's calmer, right? When you've kind of borrowed a book from a friend and you didn't ask them, but you've had it for 6 months and you haven't read it and you're not sure you're going to give it back to them, but it sits in your mind. This is mundane, but it sits in your mind. I need to return the book. I didn't pay somebody back the loan. I need to take care of that. So when your conduct is good, ethical, right? My mind's calmer, more open to concentration. I can develop that. There's some other things they talk about with concentration. Let me see. I just want to bring up more of the what helps us with concentration. Let me see if I can find it. To have this subdued mind, okay? Can you lessen? So, and this is more about people getting into longer retreat on Shine, to develop concentration. They say it's actually something, if you have the right conditions, you can get Shine in 6 months, okay? You can get that 9th stage, which lends to clairvoyance, okay? And incredible bliss in your mind. Now, who wouldn't want that? You need the clairvoyance. It really helps you help people when you have clairvoyance. You know their minds, right? So you can get it, but you need the right conditions. A lot of merit you need. That means a lot of positive energy. So that means I'm studying Dharma, coming to classes, attending classes, trying to be a good person, trying to have a meditation practice, all these virtuous activities, you might say, with the right motivation. Okay, so I'm spending time doing that. And then as a result, my mind gets more subdued. Okay, so I'm a little less anxious and a little less interested in engaging in all these social activities out there. Like I have to be at every party. I need to know what's going on with that. I'm spacing through Facebook and Instagram constantly every night, like whatever things like, because it just distracts your mind. So noting, can I lessen all of those distractions and activities? And here's the other part. Can I be happy with what I have? Can I be happy with what I have? I sometimes just play with my mind when I go into a store like Target or something and just watch what my mind runs out after. I remember leaving California. I was in one of those stores getting a gift for somebody, I think. And there was, that they have the grocery section. But because I was leaving California, I didn't need any groceries because I'm leaving. But I could just see how my mind went, oh, look at, the ha 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 is there. Oh, asparagus is in season, or and then I go, oh, I love, no. So just watch those moments. It doesn't mean you need to give in to them. You don't need to beat yourself up because desire arose in your mind. I'm just observing, curious. Oh, I don't have to act on it. Okay. So another thing is, can you be satisfied with what you have, with what you look like, with what kind of clothes you wear? How much more do you need when you think about what we have? How much more do you need? And I noticed in the pandemic, how many people were cleaning out houses, and how many people have taken care of aging parents where now they're selling the house. So people were downsizing. People were, all of a sudden they had time, I want to get rid of this stuff. And they couldn't believe how much stuff they had. It was just staggering. They just forgot, I forgot about that closet. Oh my God, I forgot about the basement, or, things like that. So think about now as you're acquiring. I had friends where, they got one new sweatshirt and that meant another sweatshirt went out. I got this pair of flip-flops, so that another pair, how many pairs, things like that. Is your mind, another feature is your mind relatively content? Is your mind relatively content? Then they talk about, really in this retreat atmosphere, do you have the right environment if you're doing retreat? This center sometimes offers, like Saturday we'll do more of a day-long, it's like a mini day-long retreat at a non-residential center. Fantastic to get a little taste. What's it like to do periods of meditation? That we're going to do meditations related to this course, and we'll do some other meditations as well. But just to have that nice time to do things like that. So if you're in a retreat mode, you want to make sure it's the right environment. You don't want to do, and there are retreat centers around here, and we used to book one to do, some of you joined to do like a 2-day retreat that we did just north of here. And so in this place, it's a conducive place for the people that were really helpful that we were coming to do retreat. The rooms were clean, the food was good. You want to have things like, you don't want to have dangerous animals that you're afraid of. You don't want to have people where it's violent, where people might be attacking you. So these are just practical things to think about when you're trying to, because all of that keeps for your mind to be more subdued, quieter, like that. And then if you have a place that is blessed by a holy being, even more fantastic. So this center is blessed by several holy beings that have been here, possibly Lama Zopa Rinpoche, Geshe-la when he was here, other teachers you've had, Venerable Tendron, and many other teachers that you've had pass through. So that really actually helps the place. Plus you have all these holy images, statues, things like that, that increase that for us to be able to practice. And you can create that in your own home. And you can also visit some of our retreat centers where there's been extensive teachings by highly realized beings and things like that. So it does help if you ever think to get into retreat mode. So Shine, what you're doing is initially you're placing your mind on the object. Don't worry about what object you select. Again, you can have Shine on an apple. I used to first work with an apple because it was something I was really familiar with. So people say, I can't visualize. And then I say pizza and they go, oh yeah, I can visualize that, right? So pick something then that you can visualize to exercise, for those of you that don't visualize well, to exercise that art of visualization, to get familiar with that. That's okay. Work with that for a while. And then maybe you have a picture of the Buddha over and over and you start to familiarize your mind with that, something a little more virtuous maybe than pizza, right? Or an apple. But again, start with what, it doesn't matter from the object side, it's your mind. Beginning, I can barely place my mind on the object. Stage 2, little longer. Stage 3, little longer. Stage 4, you start patching the gaps of the lapses in your concentration. Each stage obviously gets more, with a lot of effort, more and more focused on the object. Okay, until stages 8 and 9, which it's a little bit easier. You're relaxing the mind more, and then you're working to avoid certain obstacles. Some of the obstacles they talk about are things called lethargy, a dull mind, okay, and excitement, a desirous mind, okay? And then they have antidotes to these various obstacles. So for instance, the dull mind, And there's gross experiences of this, and there's subtle experiences. So gross dullness is you're in a session and you're falling asleep. Okay. Subtle dullness is I'm in the session, I'm holding the object in my mind, focused on the mind. I can't bring the details very clearly into focus. It's just really kind of cloudy. My mind's not holding it so much. One of the antidotes, you'll start to get an experience of your mind in meditation. And I know when it's time to kind of tighten up on the object. I have to kind of hold a little bit more laser-like on the object. Okay, gross and subtle dullness or lethargy. Gross and subtle excitement. Gross excitement is I'm in a meditation. This happened to me once on retreat, focused on the object. And all I can think about now is pizza. Right? That happened to me in one retreat. Right? You're just, the mind's going off an object of desire, your boyfriend, your partner, your kid, what you're going to have for dinner, what the next holiday you're going to have. And you keep jumping off into some that. So that's gross excitement. Okay. And what they say is the antidote to that is you bring your mind back. You might have to take a brief break in the meditation. Okay. To remind yourself about death and impermanence. Brings the mind down to remind yourself of death and impermanence, meaning for a moment, death is coming soon. I don't want to waste this precious opportunity. Sometimes it kind of gets the mind to sobers up the mind. Come on, let's do this meditation. Subtle excitement is you're holding the object, sometimes squeezing too tightly, the object pops out. There's some slight agitation on the object. It's not totally going well on the objects. That's it's hard to notice some of these experiences. And so again, it's, you might be able to visualize the object lower in your body. If you want, bring it down, imagine it's at your navel. Like that, even though it's still in the mind's eye, I can visualize it inside my navel, and that just sometimes brings the mind down. Another thing you could do if you have more subtle lethargy or dullness is visualize something up higher in the mind that brings the mind up a little bit. If you're real, and then practically, if you're really falling asleep in a session, really want to do meditation, either get more rest, okay, so that you have, or sometimes you have to interrupt the session, get up, splash cold water in your face, have a drink of water. For us in the winter, if you're in a wintry cold place, you can go outside, get that cold brush of air like that. So again, practical things to develop Shine. So there's also some obstacles we create where I'm holding on the object in my mind. I have the object. I realize I need to apply an antidote, but I don't really care and I'm not doing it. Okay, so that's another problem. But another problem is also everything's going swimmingly well on the object, right? And I'm over applying antidotes when I don't need to. I just need to relax and I'm focused on the object. So you can read more about developing meditative stabilization and the different phases of Shine. But I just wanted to mention that would be this perfection of concentration. And once again, if you have the ethical discipline, good ethical conduct, right? Your mind is calmer, more subdued to be able to develop the concentration. Then I need the concentration to develop emptiness. So let's talk about emptiness. So what happens with emptiness is we're imputing a mistaken notion on everything we experience in life, okay, until you have a direct perception of emptiness. We impute a mistaken notion. That's the way that we experience ourselves. That's the way we experience reality, okay, as long as we don't have a direct perception of emptiness. Because we misknow, K-N-O-W, we misknow reality. And the reason we do is because of our fundamental ignorance. The fundamental ignorance simply means a misknowing, a confusion in the mind. So I'll give you an example. Some of you at your workplace, did you ever get a negative story going about a coworker in your mind, somebody you didn't like? Okay. And then you tell another coworker. Okay. So that's your story. That's your experience. Tibetan Buddhism would say karma is involved, that you're having that experience based on past activities you have done with your body, speech, and mind are causing you to have this experience of this person is negative. Okay? But then you go tell a coworker, well, he's like this. Okay. But they don't agree with you. They have a totally different view of the person. They really like them. It's kind of stunning, isn't it? Okay. So what we do is we like to impute the blame. It's their fault. My unhappiness is your fault. You're doing this to me. Some people have that more strongly than others. You know, if they're a victim personality, they're doing this to me. Okay. Tibetan Buddhism says, no, everything comes from the mind. Everything comes from the mind. It's a bit radical, but as a result, you can fix your mind. You can fix your mind. You're in control of your mind. If you're not, you can gain control of your mind. It's the only thing you can control. So I found that actually empowering and exciting. There's nobody doing it to me. We don't have a God, the creator notion. Everything comes from the mind. These are examples I had when I was having one experience with somebody, positive experience with somebody, and I couldn't believe somebody else in the office hated this person. So I was new in Buddhism, working in a 30-person office when I noticed this, and I was doing some Buddhist courses, and I kind of noticed, I was like, huh, how is it that they're having this experience, right? But I'm having a completely different experience. You know, if I say to you, how many people here like tomatoes? Put your hand up. How many people like tomatoes? Okay, I'm not overly fond of tomatoes. Okay. Is it the tomato that's the problem? No, I don't think so, because all of you like tomatoes. Okay. So you could use anything like that, your experience of what, you know, and the difficulty comes as we project onto everything. The biggest thing we project on ourselves and all things we experience is a self-existence from them, a self-existence, as if something exists from its own side in a permanent nature, an unchanging nature, okay? Independently arising, independence of anything. So let me talk about emptiness and dependent arising. Emptiness means a lack of, an absence. And what it's an absence of is something called inherent nature, which is self-existence. And I'll give you synonyms: independent nature, intrinsic value, concrete existence. These are all synonyms. And this is what we impute on this is the way most of us go through space. My cup, my pen, my computer, my car. So you're out in a parking lot and you're walking back to your car and you see somebody in the car next to it just open their door into your car. How does that go for you? I'm curious. Let me get my Zoom people here. Okay. Somebody you just witnessed somebody open their door, their car door, into your door hardly. How are you doing with that? You're okay? Everybody okay? You're not okay. What's going on for you?
I would interpret it as a sign of disconsideration of the other person, and in turn, I definitely recognize that it would cause irritation.
And how would you respond? What do you think you'd do?
I definitely wouldn't escalate it. I have a little bit of practice myself, but I might say something. It's like, what are you doing? Nothing too extreme.
Okay.
Just a simple call out.
So he wouldn't do anything too extreme. He's got some subdued mind, some practice. Fantastic. Thank you. Right. Fantastic not to escalate it, like you said. It's wonderful. Right. But he did notice some irritation in his mind. You know, anybody have that experience? Car door opens and, you know, you're a little bit like, you know, thanks. Right. There's still the little twinge, unenlightened consciousness. We're going to have a little bit, you know. So slowly we want to work on that. Now, some people might have a harsh negative reaction to it. And I've seen people running over to the person, waving their arms. Hey, that's my car. I've watched it. That's my car. You just opened your door into my car. Okay. As if anything exists that is my car. Right. But this is the way we're conditioned in culture, society. Everybody tells us this. You've got your kid, your car, your house, and anybody threatens that, it's a big problem for you. And that's how, that's why Ukraine is being invaded right now. Because somebody had this notion, it's my country. Okay. I don't like what they're doing. So this is where war comes from this fundamental ignorance like that. So what do we do? What do we do? So let's explore. And what we have is we have emptiness, and we have something called dependent arising. You never have one without the other. What does that mean? Okay, so if I said emptiness is a lack of, an absence of this strong concrete notion, then I need to explore how things exist. They exist in dependence on other things. Okay, there's three ways they exist, three types of dependent arising, also called dependent origination. The first one is that things exist based on causes and conditions, based on causes and conditions. Okay, what does that mean? I'm going to use this as an example, this pen. I've used this before. Okay, we have a conventional arrangement, all of us in this part of the country right now with our language. I'm going to say English, even though that may not be everyone's first language, but a lot of people in this area speak English. So if I hold this up and I say, what is this? We have an arrangement. This is a pen. Conventional reality. There's a pen here. And we all have a convention, meaning an agreement that this is a pen. Okay. So what happens is if we want to analyze the pen from the dependent of how the pen arose based on causes and conditions, well, in ancient days, people started writing with elements and minerals on cave walls. Okay, that's a condition for the pen to come here. Then it got more sophisticated as you go forward, and people developed ink, and they developed a thing you could dip in the ink and you could write. And then they had paper, and you understand how it got more sophisticated. Then they started to put the ink into a pen, and eventually somebody developed plastic. Somebody made a factory and said, I'm going to mass produce cheap plastic pens to make money. Is everybody with me? That's one of the causes and conditions of how this pen got here. Causes and conditions, number one. Okay. Second way with dependent arising, the pen exists. It arises depending on its parts. It arises depending on its parts. What does that mean? Well, cap, I'm going to call it. I might call this the top. I might call that the point. Little metal piece, bottom, little plastic thing, plastic tube, cylindrical tube. Inside, I'm going to say ink cartridge, side of the pen, other side of the pen. There's an inside of the pen. There's an outside of the pen. These are all parts of the pen. Everybody with me? Okay, all parts of the pen. So they depend on the parts. If I take this off and hold this up, is this pen? No, it's not pen. This is cap. This is a different name. Okay. If I take this little plastic piece off, is that pen? No. Even if I take the ink cartridge out and hold that up, is that pen? It's ink cartridge, has a different name. Okay. So what happens is, what's really interesting, just follow me for a second. This isn't pen. Okay. This little plastic thing, metal piece here. Okay. That's not pen. Okay. The point is not pen. The ink cartridge is not pen. The plastic, if I just held the plastic tube up to you, is that pen? It's not pen. If I took the ink out, that's not pen. This little thing is not pen. Okay. So are you finding pen anywhere in any of the parts of the pen right now? Is there pen in any parts of the pen? And let me get my Zoom audience here. Wait, come back, Zoomers. Okay. There you guys are. Is anybody finding pen in any parts of the pen? Okay, Maureen's going, nope. Patty's nope. Cecilia, nope. Okay, everybody's saying no. Anybody here finding pen? Okay, we're not finding pen in any parts of the pen. Thank you. Okay, now here's the mistake. Here's what happens. But then you go, well, there's a pen in your hand. She's holding a pen. She's holding a pen, right? But I didn't find pen in any of the parts of the pen, okay? So what happens is, and that's just the parts that we just analyzed, no pen in any of the parts of the pen, okay? My consciousness as a human being in this part of the world, that takes in this information, I'll call data or data, however you pronounce it. I take in this information, okay? Of all these parts, okay? And because I'm a human being with English language in this part of the world, my mind then imputes a label on this configuration of it, of data, on this matter, on these parts, okay? So the third way dependent, the most subtle dependent arising is my mind sees what I'm going to call a valid basis of designation. This is a valid basis of designation for pen, okay? It's simply a valid basis of designation, meaning it's got to have ink in it. It's got to be able to write. Like we have to have our conventional agreement about it, okay? And then my mind sees that information, okay? And based on a human being with my language in this part of the world, I look at that. There's a split second, there's a minute gap. And then my mind labels pen. And then the pen comes into existence. And then the pen comes into existence. So once again, my mind sees this information, and in this way, through our visual consciousness, we're looking at the pen. I see the parts of the pen that are a valid basis of designation, and then my mind labels on that. There's a gap of the labeling process. And what happens is ignorance covers over the gap. Ignorance covers over the gap. An inherently existing pen comes into my view, okay? A solidly existing, independently existing pen arises to my consciousness due to ignorance. I don't see a pen labeled on its parts, merely labeled on its parts, merely labeled by the mind on its parts. We're labeling on everything. We impute on everything, okay? But with an ignorant consciousness, which is all of us as ordinary beings, I'm not laying a trip on you, I'm just saying this is reality, okay? I label a concretely existing pen on this. Now here's the real problem, not just the ignorance is a problem, but here's the real problem. My pen, mine. And that's where all the suffering starts. All the suffering starts. I impute a solidly existing cup or glass on this. I'm not seeing the glass accurately. I've got, for a glass, it needs to hold liquid. That's the function of a glass. It's got to have a bottom to hold liquid. Okay. It's got to have a top I can pour the liquid in. It's going to have sides to hold it. I know glasses come in different configurations and shapes and are made out of different materials. Okay. But my mind, there's causes and conditions that brought the glass to me, that caused glasses to arise, meaning people started using vessels for drinking. Ancient days, fast forward to modern times, people synthesized different materials, they made glass, mass produced them, whatever, right? And then the glass has parts. It has sides, it has a rim, it has a bottom, top, bottom, inside, outside, like that. Has to function to hold liquid. That's what a glass does. Like, this is not a glass. This doesn't hold liquid. Okay, I can't label this effectively glass. Okay, it's incorrect. So it has to have a conventional arrangement, okay? And holds liquid. And then the most subtle dependent arising, my mind sees this configuration, okay? And based on my language in this part of the world, I see the information. There's a labeling process. I don't catch the labeling, right? That I'm merely imputing by my mind glass on this valid basis of designation. So what appears to my ignorant consciousness is a solidly existing glass there, okay? And then what I do is I say, mine. I impute it on myself, me. And that's where all the suffering starts. Concretely existing me is here. Anything that threatens that or gets in the way of my agenda, I'm going to have a problem. Some of you have more subdued consciousnesses, so you have less of a problem if somebody interferes with your agenda. Sometimes for me, when I'm really tired, I have more of a problem, okay? But some people have more of a problem in general, and they have a chip on their shoulder. You attacked my kid. You're in my way. You're in my lane, my whatever it is. So this is the source of all of our suffering. This is the problem, fundamental ignorance, okay? So what happens is, if I can come in contact with something and just say, and we can deflect a little bit the cup I use rather than my cup. Sometimes I'll say that, the car I drive instead of my car, the car I'm driving, you know, the house I'm staying in, even though I could say my cabin, the cabin I'm staying in right now. It makes it more fluid, less ownership, less territorialness. Now, sometimes out of practicality, we'll be like my kid. And which kid are you talking about? My kid. Okay. But watch that my kid, because that's the hardest thing. What we're most attached to is our kids, like that. So that's a hard one. Okay. But if I can come in contact with stuff, and here's an example with your kids, this is the hardest, or your dear loved one, whoever you love the most, something happens to them. They get mugged. Their house is broken into. They get cancer, God forbid, right? So what happens is you might feel freaked out. They got attacked. Oh my God. You know, we have these things that we're also taught by society. We don't understand karma to know that this is their karma, meaning in their mind, seeds were created from past experiences of that consciousness in this life or past lives, okay, that are causing them to experience this unfortunate thing right now. We don't understand karma. So we blame. It's environmental toxins. It's the thief that broke into the house that attacked them. Everything comes from the mind in Buddhism. So it's just about taking responsibility. Taking responsibility. The seeds are in the consciousness. I'm not blaming the person for getting cancer. It's just waking up and going, the seed, Tibetan Buddhism says the seeds are in my consciousness that were created with previous activities of my body, speech, and mind. My body, speech, and mind. That's why I got this disease. Or that's why this unfortunate thing is happening. So the best way is when, let's say your kid gets a serious disease, or you get a serious disease, is you have to, what are you going to do? Well, you go to the doctor. You sort it out. Can you be kind when you go to the doctor and kind to all the receptionists and the aides and people like that? Yes, why not? Why? Because that plants positive seeds in your consciousness so that you'll have less disease in the future, maybe future lives like that, a better experience. It's you in your mind. It's not somebody else's karma that you're experiencing. Okay. It's not you creating somebody else's karma. Okay. It's you with the activities of your body, speech, and mind right now. Okay. That you're creating all the next results of your life, that you are projecting onto that movie that you're playing on the screen of your life, the movie projector of your life, what you're projecting out there. So if I have something really unfortunate happen, what is the most compassionate way I can respond? And you take care of business. You want to go get the best doctors, you want to get a second opinion, go and do it. Nothing wrong with that. But can I do it with kindness and compassion and wisdom rather than, why did this happen to me? That doctor's a jerk. You're not doing enough for us. It's your fault that she didn't get the test. You misdiagnosed. And this is the way we go through life with everything, separating from others, alienating others, railing against people, or to attach to different things because we don't understand how they really exist. And even with kids, with your precious loved one, your partner, your spouse, we're really attached to these people, close family members, close friends. Absolutely. It's really hard to fight attachment. Okay. But what if you're in a relationship and you realize everybody dies? That's reality. Everybody dies. Okay. So I would really love to be with this person in good health as long as it's possible. And I'd like to support them physically, emotionally, whatever's best. I'd like to get support from them. That's a mutual relationship. That's wonderful. Why not? And you also have your kids. So really important, you try to raise them as best as you can. Sometimes they go off and they do things you don't really want them to do, right? That's their own trajectory, their own karma. You did the best you could. There's nobody to blame, nobody to blame. But you look at your attachment, what you want, there's only so much you can do. You've given them the values, you raise them like other kids. This kid has challenges, this one doesn't, this one's successful. This one moved far away. I didn't want them to move far away. I didn't want them to marry that person. But that's how it is. So you make the best of it. Acceptance, forgiveness, and all the while trying to dismantle the delusions in my mind. the imbalances in my mind, all rooted in fundamental ignorance. Any questions? Mhm. Jack,
Are the four jhanas the same thing as Shine? The four jhanas.
the four jhanas of, I don't know the four jhanas, so can you describe in related to Shine? I'm gonna have a quick look because I can look this up now. Sounds like it sounds, well, jhana is from the Vipassana movement. Related states of deep meditative absorption in which attention is unified with a fixed meditation, normally from the Vipassana movement. And let's just see, four immaterial jhanas are commonly listed: the base of infinite space, the base of infinite consciousness, the base of nothingness, the base of neither perception. Usually this is rooted, now a little bit familiarity is in the Vipassana movement, defining feature of right concentration from their tradition. And then each level of absorption carries it into a deeper state of fixed meditation like that. So certainly related to concentration, yeah. And different types of Buddhism, because Buddhism spread out from, the Buddha was an Indian prince. So as we know, Buddhism spread all over Asia. And so then we have the Theravadan tradition of the elders, technically, that spread out from the Burmese tradition into the Thai forest tradition, which is also practiced in Sri Lanka. And that's what the Vipassana movement in the States, which is very popular right now, insight meditation that is all over the planet, came from that. And basically centers like on the East Coast, Insight Meditation Society in Barre, Massachusetts. Its West Coast counterpart is Spirit Rock Meditation Center in Northern California. And they focus on 9 to 10 day retreats where you're very much focused on mindfulness of the breath and sensations in the body and watching that. And you do periods of meditation of 40-minute walking, 40-minute sitting meditations that relate to these jhanas like that. Probably had some experience with that, maybe. Sure.
So, Amy, can I ask you a question? So
We
would
can
you
find
say,
where you are, Maureen? Yep.
okay, so would you say that dependent, arising, and emptiness are synonyms then? Or no? Because
Synonyms. They're not exactly synonyms, but basically you can't have one without the other, meaning, and this takes a while to really, you have to really reflect on this. You have to really think about it. So because something lacks inherent nature, okay, that's what emptiness means. It's absent. Inherent nature is absent from that thing or yourself. Because it lacks that, because of that, it has no concrete intrinsic value. It does not exist from its own side. And because of that, it's a changing thing. And if it's a changing thing, it's a product. And that means it has to come from other things. It arises in dependence on other things. It arises by depending on something else, meaning causes and conditions, parts, or the mind merely labeling on a valid basis of designation. So they're not synonyms at all, because dependent arising means how does it come into existence? And yet because it comes into existence from other things, it lacks any inherent concrete nature. It's empty of that.
it's like
the
that
old
quote. It's like
Emptiness.
that quote is form is emptiness.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
exactly what it's about from the Heart Sutra. Other questions about emptiness? Or, yeah.
I'm sure we're gonna get there, but for me, yeah, the car door or whatever, I can get over that. pretty easy.
Mhm.
It's stolen or lost. But my sadness, my grief, my behavior towards another, right? These are the things that I kind of
Sure.
get attached to.
Yep.
It's still I, me, mine. Right?
There.
It's still I, me, mine.
It's still I, me, mine. It's still I, me, mine. He's just saying, when you get hooked by my grief, my depression, my anxiety. I was laughing with a friend in the Zen tradition about, we were talking about space. When people say, I just need my space. If I just had my space, I could, and then both of us were like, as if there is something that exists called my space. Like, good luck with that. Now, granted, you have your home and you can go into a room but again, it's that concrete notion we put on it and as soon as we have that, we get hooked and it's leaden and we start creating more negative imprints in our mind. But again, until we have a direct perception of emptiness, we are layering those negative imprints in the mind, but we're doing the best we can. That's all we can do.
So then emptiness.
So
and-
be cautious about the my grief and my sadness and
So these formations, right, I guess you call those mental formations, right?
Yep.
How would I relate those to intentions, right? Or existence? Those emotions don't really exist, they are formations.
they're
still
formations,
working.
yeah, from previous habits of those in the mind. For instance, I've had a couple friends that suffered from chronic depression. And so they had many, many imprints of depression in the mind, where, some people that have much more attachment in the mind. And there's some people that have much more compassion in their mind from practicing those habits. So if you find that you're sad a lot, it could be imprints that are coming in from another life that you had a lot of that in mind. You can change it because you're the one who can control your mind like that. So it's a matter of looking at it. And what I'd say is when I label delusion, when I mention a list of delusions to all of you, you've heard this before: ignorance, attachment, hatred. Okay, those are the three poisons. Those are three main delusions. Okay, and then there's three additional that make up the 6 root delusions. So I'm going to add pride, doubt, and wrong view. 6 root delusions. Okay, but then we have moltings of them and mixings of them. And you get things like envy or jealousy, fear, anxiety, depression, laziness. So the main thing is when I start noticing these, and you can read books on the mind that talk about mind and mental factors and different negative mental factors. Two of them probably jumped out for you. They're different for everybody. Some people are really attached and really full of desire. They want everything, they need everything, they're never satisfied. For some people, it's anger all the time. Some people, it's pride. So what pops up for you, go after the first illusions first. Take the biggest one first. For some people, it's depression. So you want to analyze the depression and the sadness. And notice that, like what is causing, and you might notice, you might start chipping away. You need to meditate on precious human rebirth. What a fantastic opportunity you have now to practice Dharma. It's fantastic. So to do things that are buoyant, that pick the mind up, if that's one of the things. For somebody that's prideful and has a lot of haughtiness and arrogance, they need to meditate on death and impermanence to bring the mind down a little bit. And they also need to meditate on equanimity and equal regard, equal respect for all beings, to realize they're not really any better than anybody else. Everybody wants to be happy and doesn't want to suffer. We all want the same thing like that. So each thing has its antidote. So you need to spend more time with those antidotes, trying to work dismantling. And then sometimes you hit a wall and you go, the sadness still comes up, well, it's an imprint from past lives. So don't give in too much of ruminating through it. I'm sad all the time. No, I'm sad. Is do the things that are going to pick up the mind of depression, of volunteer. As soon as you help somebody else, it's hard to stay sad, right? Meditate on emptiness. That's the antidote to all of them. Meditate on emptiness. Let's do some meditation on emptiness right now, okay, just so you get a taste. But is that helpful?
Yes.
And you just do your best. Sometimes it's going to come, but we all have our own dispositions of things that, yes.
The antidote to attachment is death and impermanence.
Well, the antidote to attachment can be death and impermanence. And I'll put it this way: if it's a person you're attached to, okay, visualize them growing old and really visualize what their body's like growing old. Imagine them like 90 years old and how the skin loses luster and their hair is falling out and it's all gray and their teeth are kind of funky, and like really meditate on that. I mean, it's not pleasant, but they do say, you could also visualize, and this is more traditional Tibetan Buddhism, visualize the different bodily functions that go on for them and what's going on in their body. Really kind of, it's like, it cuts it a little bit. Cuts it. And also what you can do is realize if you're attached to your loved one, realizing that we know we're going to separate in death. They're definitely going to die one day. You'd love to be with them as long as possible in good health, but it's inevitable. Everybody dies. So can I just really appreciate the time I'm with them now, make the most of that, right? But realizing this is reality. Let's help each other in the best way. Let's be peaceful about it so I'm not grasping onto them too much, and knowing we'll support each other. And so slowly those things kind of chip away like that. Okay, we're going to do meditation on emptiness. And this is the one that comes with your course. There's different ones. One thing I will recommend is the book How to Meditate. And that book has a nice emptiness meditation. The book is by Kathleen McDonald. They probably have a copy here. And she is one of our longest term nuns in our tradition. She's a dear friend. Venerable Sangye Kadro is her ordained name. But the book, I think, is under Kathleen McDonald, How to Meditate. They've also released an updated version of it. Really nice emptiness meditation, good for beginners, good at any time. It's really, really helpful to try to understand, what am I meditating on? Normally you go according to what's called the 4-part analysis. Traditionally, the 4-part analysis. I'm first finding what's called the object of negation. And don't worry if this is over your head now, you're just getting a seed planted because it's quite profound. The object of negation is one, sometimes called find the object of refutation. Negation and refutation is the same word, which means an object you're not going to find, okay? And if you're doing it with yourself, which is very powerful, I'm looking for the I that arises, the sense of me, sense of myself. So for instance, what I would ask is you bring up in a corner of your mind, and I'll direct you to another meditation I led where you can, it's a guided meditation, a little different than this one, is if you ever notice in everyday life a moment of extreme anger that you've experienced, and if you don't get angry a lot, a moment of tremendous fear where you were gripped with fear, try to find a recent moment and you notice that, and you want to hang on to that with a part of your mind, that sense of yourself that leaps out. Okay, it's not anything subtle you're looking for, this object of refutation. You want to hold that with a part of your mind. You want to nail that object, part of your mind. Then you say, well, there's the I. Really, really strong. Step number 2. Well, I feel it. So it has to exist somewhere, that I. So you want to figure out, where should I look for the I? It has to exist somewhere. So they say traditionally in Tibetan, what's the pervasion? Meaning, what are the possibilities of where it can exist? Right? Well, it's got to be, I'm going to find it in the body or mind, right? And the only other option is it's outside of that. It's outside of that, okay? So you look in the body and mind. You look in the body and mind carefully. This is the longest part of the meditation. Step 3. They say, with the skill of like a spy, go through the body and you've got to find, there's only one I that's coming up. So again, you keep in a corner of your mind that sense of yourself. It's only one, okay? And you go, why? I think it's in my heart. I feel it in my chest. Okay, well, let's look at the chest. So I've got skin, pores, tissue, which we know is made out of billion molecules. And then there's a breastbone, there's tissue, there's blood, right? There's a heart, there's an organ in there pumping, it's got an aorta, and the heart has heart parts, top, bottom, side, ventricle, left, this, aorta, center, inside, outside. There's all these parts to these things. So then you have to say, well, which part of that is the I? Because there's only one I. It has to be identical to that part in the body. You've got to find. So you carefully, it's very exhausting, over and over, especially when you're newer, you need to go through and exhaust as much as you can every part of the body till you get familiar with doing this meditation. over and over, I'm not, is it the aorta? Well, that's like the center of the heart, so it must be the aorta. It's in the aorta. Okay, well, the aorta is made up of parts. The center of it, that's made up of parts. That's made up of minute parts. And you break it down, break it down, break it down. You don't find the eye there. And then people say, well, I think it's in the brain. Brain's made up of parts. Which part? Is it the cerebrum? Is it the gray matter? Well, is it the left side of the gray matter or the right side? Is it this molecule, the gray matter? Even that molecule can be broken down. Everything can be further broken down. Can't find the eye there. Okay. I think Einstein knew this. It used to be when I was a kid, an atom was the fundamental building block. Okay. Fundamental building, as if something inherently existed, the atom. Now they've broken it down. They still have these particle colliders that break particles down. Okay. The nun that runs the San Francisco Center, a dear friend of mine, right? She used to be a mechanical engineer designing those machines. Believe it or not, amazing. So they break things further down, further down, further down. You won't find any fundamental building block that inherently exists, okay? You will find a conventional reality, meaning you are sitting here. You are sitting here in the class. You need to take care of yourself. You can't say nothing exists. What happens with emptiness, we have two extremes. This is how we go through life, two extremes. The extreme we live in is called reification. Reification. Everything exists. The cup, my cup, the book, the bell, the microphone. And then we impute a very concrete notion on everything, especially myself. It doesn't exist that way. Okay. The other extreme is, well, you said it's empty, it lacks inherent nature, then nothing exists. So I can step in front of the bus, I'm empty, everything will be okay. No, you get creamed. So again, how do we exist? I exist. If you want to say the most subtle school, most subtle dependent rising, I do exist. I am sitting here with you in this space right now, merely imputed. I merely imputed on my body and mind. And I have to take care of that I, that conventional I, that conventional I. But I don't want to hold it too tightly as if it exists for all time, unchanging, inherently, intrinsically existent, free of any basis on depending on anything else. It doesn't exist like that. So what we strike is the middle way in Buddhism, the middle way. Things do exist as a dependent arising, but lacking any concrete inherent notion. Let's try this meditation. And we're running out of time. Okay. Page 210. I'm going to come back to that. Okay. Now, a lot of this may not make sense immediately. You digest slowly. First time I heard about emptiness, it was so profound. I was like, it didn't really make sense. Slowly, you need a lot of merit to understand emptiness. You need a lot of merit to want to read the books on emptiness, to then meditate effectively on emptiness. So what happens after you do step 3, it's the longest part of the meditation. You look, and you have to spend time looking and looking and looking for, I don't know, 20 minutes, however long you can, over and over. You want to try to do this as much as possible, questioning. Then you don't find it in the body and mind, let's say, not finding the I in the body or mind. If I'm looking at the mind, well, sometimes I have happy thoughts. Sometimes I have sad thoughts. Is it a sad thought? Well, that's when I really feel the I, sad thought. Okay, well, the sad thought also would be broken down into a beginning and a middle and an end of that thought. So it's the middle of the thought. Well, the middle can be broken down into a beginning, middle, and end. And the middle of that broken down in beginning, middle, and end. Everything further broken down. So you don't find the I there, body or mind. And then you go to step 4. So you go, well, if I'm not finding it in the body or mind, it must be outside of that. Okay. So it's really nice in Venerable Sangye Kadra's book, How to Meditate. She's like, just dissolve. Just imagine your body dissolving into space. All that molecules just floating apart. Just relax and let it happen. Imagine you're seeing that just floating off into space. And then imagine all your thoughts, all your memories, all your mental activity. which is not physical, but just dissolving. Where's the I now? So if you kind of think outside, most people get this grit like there's nothing there, doesn't exist. So what happens is when you come to an absence in the meditation, the goal is to come to a not finding, a not finding. Okay, they call it a non-affirming negation. It's a not finding. And if you come to this, it's not space. They will say space like emptiness, okay? But it's not a positive space like the nature of mind, okay? I can't find the I. There's no I there. There is no I there at all. Then you take your concentration, place it on that experience as long as you can to deepen the insight. Then the insight will fade. And then you go back and analyze more quickly to come back to the not finding, placing your concentration there to deepen the experience. Okay, let's try a little bit. We don't have a lot of time, so I'm just going to do this shortly, but it is part of the meditations for the course. You can always go back and read over and do it. And please, if you can do it as much as you can, it just helps so much in life. Helps to make things much more fluid, much more, our approach much more realistic. So just sit comfortably. We'll try our best. If you'd like, you can lightly close your eyes. And just bring your awareness to your breath, just to settle the mind for a moment. So now think I, meaning self, the letter I. Allow the feeling of I to grow. Focus on that sense of I or me. And again, if you have a recent experience of a very strong emotion, anger or fear, panic, just call that up in a corner of your mind. Notice how that experience pervades your mind right now. Notice that sense of I that jumps up. If you can find that. And so with a part of your mind as observer, just observe how that I arises in relation to this strong emotion. How does the I appear? Is it one with the body? You think it's part of your body? Separate from the body? Is it part of the mind? Is it completely separate from the mind? Notice how it can appear independent, separate from the body and mind. So let's investigate what you're experiencing. Is the I the whole body? Or is it part of the body? And if it's a part of the body, which part do you think it is? Isn't it interesting how sometimes you'll say my head, my brain, my heart, my body? Kind of pumps up the eye connected to the body. Just reflect on this for a moment. If the eye is not the same as the body, is it completely different than the body? Can the eye exist without the body? Or maybe the eye is in the mental consciousness, in the mind. So the mental consciousness, according to Tibetan Buddhism, is made up of moments of consciousness, moments of mind, they'll say, that make up our thoughts. And each moment of mind has a beginning, middle, and an end. And each of those moments has a beginning, middle, and an end. And on like that. So can you find that I in one part of that mental consciousness? Or will it always, the mental consciousness, continue to be broken down into additional parts? Just reflect on however much you can understand. Thinking there is no concrete situation to the sense of yourself. It's the concreteness, that rigidity that makes you suffer. Clinging and holding to that idea you have about yourself that is a complete hallucination. Again, that concrete holding notion you have of yourself is a complete hallucination. So there is an I that exists. You do exist sitting in this room or sitting in your space that's trying to meditate right now. And you need to take care of that being within reason. So if you get very alarmed, for instance, you're sitting by an old parent's bedside and they're very alarmed and they're freaked out and it freaks you out. Watch what's freaked out. Watch the eye arise freaked out. that I doesn't exist at all. It's a complete hallucination based on previous moments of misknowing or misunderstanding reality that your mind is familiar with. That fundamental ignorance, simply that our minds are familiar with, causes us to freak out. If I can remind myself, watch it arise, notice the panic, notice the guilt, notice the anger, notice the attachment, whatever the delusion. Just observe, get curious, and think that I does not exist at all. Complete hallucination, completely out of balance. There is an I that I'm working with, that I have to take care of, that I live, that motors me through my life, that exists merely labeled by my mind on my body and mind, on that valid basis of designation. That's how I come into existence. That's how I exist. Dependently arising on causes and conditions. My parents wanted to have a child. Sperm and egg came together. On my parts, my body and mind. And on my mind, labeling on that valid basis of designation. Labeling Jack, Maureen, Patty, Nicole. Had Nicole existed for all time the way she may feel she exists, inherently existent, concretely existing, then when she was born in the delivery room or wherever she was born, everyone around there would be like, it's Nicole. But what came out, the valid basis of designation, was baby girl. Then a name was put on, a label. Baby girl is also a label on a configuration of a little pink human with 4 appendages and a head and a torso. And all those things are labels based on a valid basis of designation, and on and on. So just go back to the sense of yourself right now. Just get a feel of how does it feel now? Does it feel as solidly existing as when we started? And if you conjure up the fear or the anger or the sadness, can you work on that to see it in a slightly different light? As not us as concretely existing forever, unchanging for all time, but simply a manifestation of imprints that your mind is familiar with from previous imprints of those experiences. So the more I create more virtuous neural pathways and thoughts and patterns and activities, the more that is what will show up in my mind. And the more that virtue will lead me to wanting to understand emptiness more. Just make a determination in your heart right now. Definitely think about considering starting to read some simple books on emptiness, getting to more classes on emptiness, effectively meditating on emptiness as much as is possible for you. Please slowly relax. And when you're ready, please open your eyes. Is this till 9 o'clock?
Yes.
Oh, we have more time. Wonderful. Okay. Yay. Thank you. Okay, we've got a little bit more, but a little bit more on emptiness. So for instance, if we want to take Vladimir Putin, so we've got a situation right now that's pretty grave with Ukraine. And for some people, thank you for, it's really quite sad what's happening, okay? And people make Putin out to be this great evil. So you can keep that in your mind, which creates a wall in your mind, and it creates additional imprints of hatred and anger towards people, having that imprint in your mind. He doesn't know you're angry at him and that you don't like him. It doesn't really do anything for him, but it does create that reverberation on the planet from you. It might make you a bit testy, and then you get with other people and you go, yeah, this is awful. There's many people like that on the planet. We could label like that, okay? He's nothing other, okay, than a culmination of his anger, okay? A culmination of his this or his that, okay? His power, culmination of that, his misconceptions. He's as lost as any other ordinary person on the planet, okay? But because he rules a big country, because he has more power under him, he can create more harm, okay? But basically, this is all, that he's a culmination of all these things, okay? He's a culmination of his wish to harm. He's a culmination of his delusions, his fantasies, his nonsense, you could say. His this and that, all these bits and pieces, okay, that are in the continuity of his consciousness. That's all. But the thing is, he's a suffering sentient being just like us. Think about how lost he is. So much more than us. We're not going to go to war. We don't even like to yell at people. Right? And we really try not to do that. I mean, occasionally somebody gets upset, they snap at somebody, and then they get really upset with themselves. Oh my God, I snapped at somebody. You know, I didn't invade somebody's country and start bombing and killing everybody. So in some ways, when you start to understand a little bit about emptiness, right? Meaning this misconception we all have, a misknowing. So people mess up because of that, right? We all make mistakes, we're human. That happens to be the condition of human nature, is you make mistakes. Okay? First of all, if you can't forgive yourself and accept that, then you're not going to be able to do it with others. And some people are very rigid that way. Okay? But when I start to understand how I misunderstand things, and I'm always fascinated, and now I'm working with this wonderful group of people, this team at Land of Medicine with really, really good people. They really are, you know. And the other day, one of my friends on the board, as you know, his dear friend, he's like my brother. And the other day I said to him, can you cut me some slack? Like he was kind of, and he said, he goes, I get really critical about people. He said this about himself. And I said, yeah, can you just cut me some slack? I made a mistake, or I didn't, you know, like it's no big deal, but cut me some slack. And he goes, thank you for saying that. He goes, I get on people, I pound them. And I said, yeah, like cut me some slack. And then he looked at me and he said, I know, I'm sorry, I'm not perfect. And then I made a joke to him and I said, well, you didn't ask me to sit down when you gave me that news that you're not perfect. Like, we're not perfect. Sentient being means you're not perfect. You're a human being. Why not make light of it and joke sometimes? I think we need that. I think we need that, right? So, but I'm amazed too with this team of people, how these two people have this view of this person. These two people have a completely different view. This one's positive. This one's not so positive. These, you know, and I'm really, you know, and you just have to, sometimes I step back and I'm like looking down at the group, kind of going, it's all empty. It's all, look at our karma swirling around. She thinks this and he thinks that. And there's no problem with any of these people. I can impute problem on them and then go, I don't like him. I don't like her. Well, that just divides us. That creates war. Whether it's my little war in a little center of little disagreements and hostility, and then this little clique starts, and why? I don't need to do it. I know everybody's trying their best. We're all working so hard. We're tired. We're whatever, good people. So, but occasionally it'll come up and you make a mistake and you fall flat on your face and you kind of choose somebody out and you go, yeah, and then I go back to my practice. This is our practice. I go back to my cushion. I go back to my meditation practice, whatever that looks like for you. Please get a practice started, because this is where I go back and go, what the hell happened today? I really wasn't doing very well today. And it could have been I was just quiet during the day, but having negative thoughts about people. A lot of people say to me, okay, I'm not a kid anymore in the sandbox hitting somebody. We don't really hit people as adults, But then people open their mouths, they open this. And oh, big trouble comes out. Okay, sometimes, right? But then people say to me, I now have controlled my speech. I'm not opening this to say anything, but my mind's still garbage. Okay, well, we work in stages. Be kind to yourself. It's a process. It's a process. So again, I'm just going to go home and I'm going to notice the thoughts. Even before, when I was barely a Buddhist, okay, I learned a little bit about meditation. I was working in a magazine, San Francisco. There were 30 people there, some really strong personalities. People with very strong views, very dominant. And I'd hear them yelling. We had an open air office, like no private offices. I hear people yelling at each other, and I'm like a couple people I was afraid of, and I had my little altar, this little space I made, nothing fancy. And I'd go back and I'd be like this one person, I had to work with him to do this project. What am I going to do? He's really intimidating. He's yelling at everybody. I don't like him. I'm afraid of him. And I just sit, come home from work, instead of angry, upset. And then I'm going to go out with my friends and drink a lot and try to forget. And no, I breathe in and breathe out and slowly and watch all the thoughts. I didn't really know how to meditate yet, but I watched all the thoughts. But this was how this safe place for me, got created. And I'd watch, and first I go in the breath, and then slowly the thoughts would start, just bubbles float off. No, I felt better. I was being like, okay, well, it's just a job. I need my job for the money to support myself. But then I learned a little bit in Buddhism, just as I want to be happy and don't want to suffer, you want to be happy, you don't want to suffer. Just as I want to be happy, I don't want to suffer. You want to be happy, you don't want to suffer. Just, everybody wants that. Everybody wants the same thing. So I'd sit there on my cushion, didn't really know much to do, didn't know about emptiness at the time, but I think, I want to be happy, I don't want to suffer. And so does that guy at work. He wants to be happy, he doesn't want to suffer. Does he have a different way of going about getting his happiness and not suffering from me? Maybe, but he still wants fundamentally the same thing. So suddenly I see him in a different light. I'm able to experience not just the negative parts of him, and you know what? He struggles just like me. He doesn't have all the answers. He likes to think he does, but he doesn't. He doesn't have all the answers. And you know what? Can I now, because now I had a little bit more space, can I find any positive qualities in him? Yeah, I could. He was really good at what he did. I didn't know how he did that job that he did, in the art department. I was like, really does a great job. He's really a bright guy. Like suddenly I could find positive things. And then I had a little commitment with myself. So tomorrow when I go in, the job is trying to be a Buddhist, trying to be an inner being. Like, what's my mind telling me is I'm going to go in and I'm really going to work to just focus on his positive qualities. And I'd watch negative stuff come up in my mind. When I'd see him, I'd be like, oh, and I'd be like, oh no, good art director. Like, I love that cartoon that he did. I could never do anything like just focus on slowly, okay? Over and over. This is how you have to work with it. Again, slowly what happened is, because I got a little less fearful of him, we had to do a project together. Then I come in, then slowly, never criticizing him. A lot of people criticized him in the office. So he was very alienated from people. He would criticize them back. That was just how it's like if you have a caged dog on a leash, and people go by and it'll growl. It's afraid. If you get down there on your, lying on your back in front of the dog and stuff, usually they'll start sniffing you. Nothing attacking them, nothing threatening them. So slowly I started to do this project, right? But I started genuinely complimenting him on good things, but I had to be sincere, genuinely complimenting him. This thing was amazing that you did. I don't know how you did that. How did you get the little points in there? It's amazing. And he was like, took notice. Somebody said something nice. Who's she? I was the new person in the office. He's like, then one day he came in, had a nice shirt on. I said, oh, I love your shirt. Oh. So suddenly your friends do that. Your friends compliment. So suddenly it's okay to be around me. She gives me positive feedback. That's what friends do. Slowly he starts to trust me. Slowly we became friends. And slowly he started to even say to me at one point, oh God, I just chewed out so-and-so. I don't know why I do that. And I said, well, that's, and here I am, my little budding Buddhist thing. Well, it's probably something interesting to look at. Something to get curious about. Then he took interest to think about it. I said, sometimes when I do that, then I go home at night and I kind of sit quietly, think about how could I do it better tomorrow? Just do you think she has any good qualities? Do you ever focus on her good qualities? He goes, I never thought about that. Okay. Just something different to think about. So we're all swimming around in this. We're all mucking up. Okay. I'm not going to focus on all the time I'm mucking up, but I'm going to try to learn from my mistakes. Okay. But when you understand that people are operating because they don't have emptiness. Okay. So everything, there's this concrete notion on everything. That's why they screw up. Okay. How can you not have compassion then? We're all lost. When you see little kids lost like that, we try to help them. We know, oh, he doesn't know better. If you don't have emptiness, you don't know better. You don't know better. Putin, he doesn't know any better. That's where he's operating. So it's just ways to deflect that negativity in your own mind, just different ways of thinking about it. This is how we have to practice. It's how we have to move forward. So again, in order to get these things slowly, it takes time. You don't just open a book on emptiness and think you're going to get it. Okay. You have to build your practice with different components. Okay. There's your meditation practice. It's hard. Find a little space in your house. You don't need a fancy altar, but it's nice to have a consistent place you're comfortable to sit. You can sit in a chair. Nobody says you have to sit like this, but you'd like a place where you can leave the chair that's not heavily traffic. You can shut a door. Okay. Put your phone out of the room. Sit, find a space you sit. You don't need to know what to do in the beginning. Light a candle. You have a little box or something. Light a candle. Let your mind empty out. Just see what's going on in your mind. That's one beginning. Build that meditation practice. Get a book like How to Meditate. Everything's there. Read through the book slowly. Go through one meditation. Take a meditation a week. 1 week or 2 weeks on one meditation, you get familiar with the meditation. You won't need the book anymore. And then you'll be able to use those meditations as resources, okay, when you get into trouble. What do I need right now? A white light meditation. I can't really do much. I just want to visualize white light coming through me. Great. Or I want to visualize the Buddha, or I want to work with my anger, or whatever it is. There's all these meditations in there. How to sit. Okay, so that's one thing. You want to get some beginning books. And if you're already past the beginning books, go into deeper books on the Lam Rim of our philosophy. What are the different topics talking about? Can I learn how to meditate and add those to my meditations? Okay. Then you have a thing of pujas and rituals and things like that. And there's even stuff of preliminary practices. We're doing 100,000 refuge mantras. We're offering water bowls. This is we're doing prostrations. We're doing whatever those kind of things you're doing, a Vajrasattva practice with mantras like that. So what I'm doing is those things chip away and help purify negativities in your mind and help you accumulate the conditions you need to continue to practice, to build your meditation practice, to understand emptiness, to come to classes, understand more and more. So you build the different components in realistically with what's going to work in your mind. You can't sit necessarily an hour every day. That doesn't work for people. You have your job, you have your family. So what's going to work? Can you get 10 minutes in the morning? See what's going on in your mind? Set a good motivation. Can I, later in the day, I got into a little trouble at work. Can I recall the motivation? Can I put a little post-it on my desk or my workspace that reminds me to check my motivation? Can rekindle that motivation through the day. Can I dedicate at the end of an activity, which we'll do at the end of the class? right? And the other thing is, can I do in the evening? Some people do a Vajrasattva practice. It's an aspect of the Buddha deity called Vajrasattva, like that. And so it's a purification practice. Can I learn how to do that? Learn the mantra. I do it every night. So whatever I messed up today, like the fact that I didn't have another direct perception of emptiness today, at least that, like every day I'm gonna just try to purify to keep the negativities at a minimum. That's how you put your practice together. When you can, come to a day-long retreat. We have one on Saturday for this class. You like that? Maybe you go to a retreat center, rent a room for a couple days and do 2 days on your own and see what happens. You know, get a book like this. Here's outlines, okay? Extended outlines of Lamrim practice. So you're not sure in the Lamrim what I should actually be meditating on? Well, this pretty much outlines what you need to do. This is available online. Okay? You can find it through FPMT, through our overall organization. Really helpful like that. You don't need any big magic mystery that I need to be the most intelligent person on the planet. You just need to get started for the sake of all living beings. Everybody needs your help. They really do. And the first thing is we need to take care of our mind like that. Make sense? Questions? Comments? Anything with the course before we finish? It possible to do? I mean, some of you already started. I know for some people, it's kind of like, how am I going to get it going? Please try, because it's like the planet really needs us to try. And what happens is that the very least you're going to find is it really starts to work in your mind. I mean, I realize over time, and it does take effort, but we make effort at lots of things. And over time, I just notice where people will be more subdued or they've dealt with the thing. And I mean, you've been around how many years now? 6 years. Do you notice a change?
Huge.
Huge change. I mean, I'm looking at some of you online. Shelley, how long have you been around Dharma?
About 2.5 years.
Have you noticed any change in your mind for the better?
Yes, definitely.
2.5 years. Everybody else say 1 year, and you have to go back and really look. People say to me, but I'm not enlightened yet. You know, like we're supposed to be enlightened in 2 weeks. Come on. I still get angry, people say. Yeah, you know what? So do I. So do I. I've been a nun for 21 years, right? I'm not a Buddha. I'm a Buddhist. I'm not perfect. I'd like to get there one day, but I'm not. So, but people say 1 year, they know so you have to look back too. Give yourself credit and rejoice at what's going well. Because it's significant. People say that, oh, I'm a little gentler with myself. I was much more compassionate with that guy when I would have been really upset. I realized my daughter wanted to go off. She wanted to move there. And I was like, have a good time. First time, you know, you're very attached, but you go, no, it's good enough. So we have to try like that. We're out of time. We could have gone on and on like this. Sorry, she's teaching at our center on the 5th. I'm not, April 5th. I'm not sure what that is in the chat, something, I don't know. Any other questions or comments before we close? Yes.
One brief question. You were mentioning the Vajrasattva purification practice. I know that within the practice, there is a section for meditation, a meditation on emptiness after the mantra recitation. Would you say that that could be an adequate emptiness meditation throughout the week? Would you recommend maybe even allotting more meditation time towards emptiness specifically?
More time. So my understanding of what you're referring to in the Vajrasattva practice, what's your name? Tony. So Tony's saying at the end, you do the mantras, and then and you do it with 4 opponent powers, which you can understand it. And if anyone's interested, amymiller.com, I have a website. So there's a lot of videos and audios on there. It's connected to a YouTube channel. So there's a Vajrasattva weekend in France I did with translation into English. So it explains the whole Vajrasattva practice. If you want to know how to do it, you can find it on the website or you can contact me. I can help you locate it. There's an emptiness meditation in one of the audios, I think, from Light of the Path retreat. So if you want to have a guided emptiness meditation slowly, you can watch. There's a lot of different references and resources there that could be helpful. So I think what you're referring to is at the end of Vajrasattva, you dissolve Vajrasattva and then it says, reflect on emptiness. There's no I. So that's not an effective emptiness meditation. It's more for people that understand a little bit of emptiness to reflect, but it's not like an official emptiness meditation. It'd be better to make more time to try to go through the 4-part analysis if you can, or how to meditate. It's a good one as well, like that. So that's a good question. So it's always nice when you finish a practice to reflect on emptiness. And there's a dedication Rinpoche likes too, where you say, I, who am dedicating, am empty of any inherent nature. Dedicate the merit, which is empty of any inherent nature, for my enlightenment, which is empty of inherent nature, so that I can benefit all living beings who are empty of inherent nature. But so it's just a reflection like that to keep, as the more you can remind yourself at any time of emptiness is incredibly powerful for your mind and layers some deep seeds of virtue in your mind. Thank you. Thank you. Anything else in the Zoom room? Guys are hanging in there. Great. Anything else? So this concludes presenting the path. And I know that some of the sessions were shorter, like an hour and a half. So there's a lot more you could go into, in that there's a lot more we could say about emptiness. Hopefully we'll have time in the future. And I've got some other classes this week too, which I hope to see some of you. I'd like to dedicate the merit and whatever positive energy we've created from our time together. I want to thank everybody for joining. I'd really like to thank Thupten Khunga Center and Nicole and Patty and all the people that have supported the center for years and years and years. And I'm going to share my
Venerable Amy, you accidentally muted yourself.
I accidentally muted myself. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to turn to the prayer book. I think I have it on my computer to share. This looks like an updated one.
Just doing the online prayer.
Or what we're going to do is, let's read Master Shantideva. This way I can share my screen with everybody and we can all do this beautiful dedication. And it's 246 in the gold prayer book. And I'm going to share my screen with you folks. It might be a slightly different version, but mostly it's the same. Let me make it bigger. Okay, I hope you can see that. So let's send this out to everybody on the planet. Everybody really needs this. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. As long as space remains, as long as living beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. The long life prayer for His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Lama Zopa Rinpoche, that you can just listen. In the gold prayer book, it's page 270 Wait. do I wanna do that?
244, the short one.
Yeah, there's one on 273 or 244, I guess. Which version this is. Yeah, 244. We have both of them right there. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. And for Lama Zopa Rinpoche's long life, thank you, Patty. That's a newer version that you have, Patty. The one in here is another version, but for Lama Zopa Rinpoche, you who uphold the subduer's moral way, serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplished magnificent prayers honoring the three sublime ones, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. For all the beings who need additional healing, may they receive it. I'd really like to dedicate to our dear Lamo from this community who passed away not long ago. May she immediately have a precious human rebirth to get enlightened, to benefit all. And for the great flourishing of Thupten Khunga Center and all of our centers and projects. Thank you so much. So we will have a little bit more time to talk about emptiness this Saturday when we do the meditations, and we'll do a variety of meditations as well and try to do maybe a longer emptiness meditation like that. I hope you can join. And then there's some other classes this week. Thank you, everyone. Lovely to see all of you.
Thank you, Venerable Amy.
Thank you, Venerable Amy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.